Hi green lovers! Back in November, which was 3 months ago, I made a video about growing cover crops and highly recommended that you try growing cover crops in your backyard prior to your growing season. So I just came out here and pulled out one of the bell bean plants that you see in the background here. I'm going to be tilling them back into the surface of the soil in preparation for planting some potatoes. But prior to that, I wanted to show you what the root system looks like. So let's take a look. So before we examine the roots, let's talk about a couple of things. First, when is it time to harvest or to till in these cover crops? Now, the right answer is before it goes to seed, because what happens when it goes to seed is that all the nitrogen that has been stored in the roots is going to be used to create a good, healthy seed. And as a result of it, there won't be any nitrogen to return to the soil. You want to really cut these plants down right about the time that they start to go to flower. Now, as you can see, this thing is putting out side shoots, and the next step is it's going to put out flowers. I could wait a little bit more, but I'm going to go ahead and cut these down because it is time for me to plant my potatoes and I need the space. The second question is, how do you cut these into the soil? Now, the way that you do it is you actually want to leave these roots in the soil to decompose. So you go ahead and cut it as close to the roots as possible, but you don't pull it out of the soil. So you just cut it right here. You lay the top part of the plant down on the soil and let it degrade over the next few days. This is going to add biomass, and overall it's going to improve the nitrogen in the soil. And the nodules particularly are rich in nitrogen, and as they break down, they're going to release that nitrogen into the soil and make it available for your next crop when you plant it. Now let's talk about the roots themselves. So the way that it works is that this is a symbiotic relationship between a bacteria called rhizobia and the plant. When you put the plant in the soil and it starts to grow, the roots produce flavonoids, which serve as an attractant to this bacteria called rhizobia. And it populates the roots of the plant through the root hairs. And once it is situated in the root, it starts to create these nodules. And it becomes an integral part of the root and then starts to get all its energy from the plant itself. It cannot live without the plant, and that's why it's a symbiotic relationship. And in the process, it creates these bulbous nodule kinds of things that is full of nitrogen that is readily available to the plant. So that is the symbiotic relationship. The bacteria lives from the nutrition provided by the plant, and in return, it gives nitrogen back to the plant. All right, so let's go ahead and cut down our cover crops. I'm using just a regular pruner, and I'm going to go as close to the roots as I can, right there. I'm going to chop it. Now I've got a small space here that I've planted these cover crops, but if you have a larger space, you may want to use a different tool, like maybe a lawnmower, to mow it down into the soil and then lay it down in the soil to decompose for at least about 2 to 3 weeks. And when you're ready to plant, you move aside the plant and you plant right into the soil, which is now rich with the nitrogen that has been released into the soil from the roots. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this patch.